Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game from yesterday's Title Tuesday. A lot of you guys have requested this one and for very good reasons. Magnus Carlsen was able to play a bullet game with an accuracy of 98.1%. Now, to put this into perspective, this is a lot even for a rapid game or even for a classical game. If you played a classical game, maybe not like a Berlin defense game where, okay, you play 25 moves of known theory and then you agree to a draw. Okay, maybe you can play with 98.1 accuracy, but with a crazy game like this with 1 minute on the clock, not something that happens every day. So let's check it out. Vidit has the white pieces and he opened with d4. Magnus went knight to f6, we have c4, c5, pawn to d5, advancing the pawn against the Benoni, and now pawn to g6. We have knight to c3, bishop to g7, and now pawn to e4. We have pawn to d6, and now many moves are possible here. Knight to f3 and bishop to d3 are the most popular ones. You can go h3, you can go for the 4 pawns attack with f4. Vidit goes for bishop to e2, and now castles by Magnus. We have knight to f3, e6, and now castle. So this is all very standard stuff. E captures, C captures, rook to e8. You put pressure on the e4 pawn, and now knight to d2 is the move that you have to play if you play this as white. Now the pawn is nicely defended, you can solidify with f3, and the knight might come even to c4 to put further pressure on that d6 pawn. So we have knight to a6, the knight will be remaneuvered to c7, it's the standard idea. We have king to h1 before opening up this diagonal. You might run into trouble later on if you don't play this, and now knight to c7. We have pawn to f3, pawn to b6 by Magnus, and now pawn to a4. We have rook to b8, and now knight to c4. The knight is excellently placed here, as Vidit has great control over the b5 square, so you don't have to worry about that knight being kicked away. We have bishop to a6 and bishop to g5, pinning the f6 knight. Bishop captures on c4. This knight is a monster here, and your light square bishop isn't really all that great, so you are very happy to trade it, of course. Bishop captures, and now pawn to a6, preparing to further advance the b pawn. Queen to d3, adding more firepower to the b5 square, and now queen to c8. We have bishop to f4, putting pressure on that d6 pawn now, as it is undefended, and now usually everyone plays bishop to f8 here as it is an own position, but Magnus played rook to d8, and it is now as of move 18 that we have a completely new game. So like I said in the beginning of the video, yes, we do get a lot of theory, but also it's a fairly long game, a very complicated one, so the accuracy stands for itself. We have pawn to g4. Vidit now wants to start his expansion on the king side. Also, he wants to have g5 ready to kick away the knight if needed, but one thing that g4 does, it does weaken the white king. Now this diagonal has been weakened, and Magnus counters this by playing queen to b7, and also it will give additional support to the push of b5. So we have queen to c2, and now pawn to b5. We have a captures, bishop goes back to e2, and now, while you do really like your queen on b7, Magnus improves it even a bit more. He plays queen to b6. This stops Vidit's idea of rook to a5, just going after that b5 pawn. So knight to d1, now the knight can be remaneuvered. You can go knight to e3, you can go knight to f2 to d3, and then maybe later on push e5. Knight to d7, also a standard idea in the Benoni. You want to play c4 and free up that c5 square for your knight. We have knight to f2, now pawn to c4. We have rook a to d1, and now rook to a8. As Vidit's rook left the a file, Magnus's rook now claims it. We have pawn to b3, also very principled. You want to go after that c4 pawn and trade down if possible, but Magnus just advances it. And now Vidit does not want to allow pawn to b4 by Magnus, so he plays pawn to b4 himself. We have, okay, rook to a4. Now Magnus will pile up on the b4 pawn, and Vidit needs to be ready to defend it. Knight to d3, and now knight to a6, just putting more pressure on the pawn, and also rook is coming to c8 and then to c4 to put even more pressure on that b4 pawn. So as usual, everything revolves around the b4 square. We have queen to b3, rook to c8, and now rook to c1. We have rook to c4, putting pressure on the pawn here, and there's really no good way to add another defender to the b4 pawn. So Vidit defends with a tactic. Rook to a a1. Now, the idea behind rook to a1 is that you can't really start collecting pawns, because if knight captures on b4, rook captures on a4 wins the game for Vidit. Now, if b captures, the rook on c4 is undefended. Magnus really here has to decide whether he wants to play rook captures on a1, or does he maybe even want to sacrifice the exchange for two connected pass pawns. Now, it looks too good to pass up on, but Magnus gives the correct assessment, because if you actually go for this, knight captures and now rook captures, yes, you do have the pass pawns, but it's not easy to start pushing them. Look at this, rook and queen a3 goes after the knight, and once the knight is defended or moved, then you go queen a5. You win more space, and after queen to b8, you will play rook a to b1, and it's not easy to connect those pawns. Also, the queen is stuck here guarding the d6 pawn. This would actually be very good for white. So Magnus assesses the position correctly. He plays rook captures on a1, rook captures on a1, and now he goes for knight captures on b4, and now Vidit takes on b4. The only way to hold the position is to try knight to e1, and it doesn't even hold. It just, maybe allows Magnus more opportunities to make bad moves, but still after g5, it's just crushing. You have to play something. Bishop captures on g5. Now queen comes to f2. You put pressure on the bishop. And after bishop captures on c4, you will play b captures on c4, and that's it. There's no good move for the white queen. If you capture on b4, then of course queen to f1 is checkmate. That's just a mate in one. So you're going to have to play queen captures on c4 to guard against mate, but now pawn to c2. The pawn is nicely defended here, so you cannot touch it. And after rook to c1, bishop to b2 is all that is needed to win this game. So that's the problem for Vidit here. So he played knight captures on b4, and now Magnus goes for queen to f2. He puts pressure on the bishop here, and again, you could capture the rook, but then you just run into a devastating checkmate. Queen captures on f3 check, king g1, bishop to d4 check, and no more moves for the white king. You have to block, and then bishop captures on e3 will be a very nice checkmate here, with the queen and bishop cutting off the white king completely. So after queen to f2, Vidit found a nice defensive idea. He played rook to a2, but again, the position is completely winning for Magnus, but you have to find a very particular idea. Only one move wins the game for Magnus, so feel free to pause the video and find it while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on finishing this 98.1 masterpiece, accuracy masterpiece. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, the move is bishop to d4. For those of you who play the Benoni or the Benko, you are no stranger to the devastating power of the potential bishop to d4 moves. But of course, if you don't, then you might have just found it all on your own. So bishop to d4 threatens queen to g1 checkmate, and now there's no good way to defend. Queen to d1 was played. Okay, you stop checkmate, but now the knight on b4 really is hanging. So rook captures on b4, Magnus wins material. Bishop to g3, Vidit played a few more moves. Queen e3, we have bishop captures on d6, attacking the rook, but now just rook to b2. Absolutely every move Magnus played is a top engine move. And you just cannot play against that. Rook captures on b2, c captures, and now bishop to d3 guarding the queening square, but now queen to c1, and he was in this position on move 39 that Vidit resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. If you do nothing, then you lose the queen. If you take the queen, then of course you get another queen into the game, and if you defend the queen, then Magnus can simply bring another queen into the game, play queen captures on d1 on the next move, and he's just up too much material. So there we have it. That's what a 98.1 accuracy bullet game looks like. Like I said, I would be ecstatic if I was able to play a 40 move classical game with a 98.1 accuracy, but when it's a bullet, then it's just completely unreal. So there we have it. That's how Magnus plays. But even with all this, he was not able to win the tournament. Although he got a clear second place, the tournament was won by Dmitry Andreikin. He had half a point ahead of half a point ahead of Magnus Carlsen, and he won his 15th title Tuesday. So incredible event for him. So yeah, that's the game. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. You have to know a lot of theory and have a really good day in order to be able to pull off something like this. So keep trying. I would like to thank Amanda Oliver, the most beautiful girl in the world, Duncan Weinkohl, Egbert Jan Schirhorn, Olav Oy, and Adam Decker, the loneliest single guy in the world, for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions such as this one and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon and have an excellent rest of your day.